So we're doing this board game thing. We've got the narrative, we've got the game, fantastic components, miniatures, board, artwork, just pulls you in to that world. Regardless of the type of board game that you are playing, there are certain fundamentals because it's a board game that are always going to be in play. And in this series of Tactica that I'm pushing up to the channel here under the Board Game Tactics playlist, the idea is if we can identify this Tactica, if we can build that checklist, then this is going to give us a chance to win. This is going to increase our odds of winning. Now, that win could be in a competitive game. I'm playing Game of Thrones. I need to win. I'm playing Defender of the Crown. I need to win. Personally, it could be something like Settlers where, look, I want to come out ahead. Or it could be something like a cooperative board game, Zombicide, Invader, Black Plague, where we're all playing together. And look, I want to give the team the best chance possible. So helping to take the elements of a board game and give you that big win. It's also very, very useful because many of us have titles that we enjoy playing over and over again, but sometimes you sit down playing a game for the first time. And if we can understand these tactics, if we can look for them, that's going to cut down that learning curve and help to give you an advantage. Now, components of a board game. There are three main components. Now, how this composition works and breaks out, right? It depends. Depends, the division. But most board games have dice, whether it's a D6, a custom dice, a D10. They're going to have some sort of cards to resolve events or encounters or give your character or use a player abilities. And then there's going to be a play area, the board element of it. And some board games are kind of small and compact, and other board games are really, really large with the expansions. All three of these areas, there's about 5 tactica. This is the DNA, the engine, the genesis of playing a board game, understanding it. All right, we've got that framework. Let's talk about the dice. So there's this idea, and again, independent of narrative, there's going to be some sort of randomness to a game. It might represent fog of war, might represent utilizing a power, might represent exploring an area and seeing what's there. The dice are used to generate effects. Now, that effect could be to fight a monster and beat it and win. That effect could be you're on a quest and we got to just see what's on that space. That effect could be, look, I've got my factories pumping out credits like crazy. Let's see what they earn. How many resources do I get? The dice represents in a board game that fog of war, that unknown, and you roll it and you see what happens. Now, depending on the dice, they're going to be random. And again, whether it's a D6, a D10, custom dice, and you can look, okay, if it's a D6, 1 and 6, the middle point is 3. So generally speaking, statistically, you roll 3 and 4s, all that kind of general stats apply. But what we want to do is look for ways to control the random of the dice and influence the random of the dice. I can't eliminate it, but if I can at least control it, then that means I have more agency over the events of how I want to play the game. Okay, controlling the random, influencing the random. This is where I'm kind of flipping through the rule book ahead of time and looking for these possibilities or understanding it within the game is important. If your game has an ability to re-roll the dice or add a plus something to the dice or flip the dice, flip your misses to hits because you popped off your daily power, those are all examples of controlling or influencing the random. I roll a D6, I get a 1, that's not favorable results. I needed a 6, I pop off a reroll, I get a 5 or 4, okay. I get a 6, great. If I'm fighting a monster and I miss, I pop off my daily, I get to flip the die from a miss to a hit or a regular hit to a crit. There we go. So some of these game systems will have some sort of mechanic built in, right? Maybe they give you 2 rerolls. Others, you might look if you're playing a character on the skill tree. At some point, you'll be able to change your dice rolls or add your dice rolls. How that manifests, this is a priority to absolutely pursue. Another example is adding dice to your dice pool. So if I need to succeed on a 4 or higher and I get to roll 2d6, I just need to roll 1 4, then I succeed. If I develop a certain resource and now instead of rolling 2d6, I get to roll 3d6, that increases my chances. You're looking to expand your dice pool. Now, we're looking at this tactica from a very broad level. We're not diving into specific board games, but this is kind of like one of the things you want to identify based on the dice mechanics. And it could be a dice-heavy game where it's all dice. It could be a dice-light game where it's not really as much dice, it's more card-based. Any element involving dice, I want to look to identify. How do I get those pluses? How do I get those rerolls? How do I deploy more dice on the table? How can I change the dice? How can I take away from the dice? And that's one of the tactics that I want to be able to pursue and follow.